I never thought I'd be the kind of girl to go through someone's phone. It always seemed so beneath me, desperate, insecure, paranoid. But that night, something gnawed at my gut like a dull knife scraping bone. Jack had come home late again, and for once, he didn't have an excuse lined up like a soldier at attention. He was in the shower. His phone buzzed once, then again. Curiosity bled into suspicion. By the third buzz, I convinced myself it was harmless. Just a peek. Just enough to ease my nerves. But it wasn't harmless. I opened the screen to a name I didn't recognize. See, a flurry of messages, none overly explicit, but all unmistakably intimate. Wish I was falling asleep next to you. Tonight was amazing. You make me feel so alive. I sat on the edge of our bed, cold, the phone clenched in my hands. My heart pounded so loud I couldn't hear the shower anymore. Only the sound of everything cracking. I didn't cry. Not yet. Anger came first, then betrayal. But what shocked me most wasn't that Jack was cheating. It was a photo I found. A mirror selfie. The woman's face hidden behind the phone. But her arm, her shirt, her necklace, I'd know them anywhere. It was Claire, my best friend. I stared at the screen, my breath shallow. Memories of wine nights, of secrets exchanged in whispers, of hugs that felt like home, all crumbled into dust. The betrayal wasn't just Jack's. It was Claire's, too. Maybe worse. Jack I loved. Claire I trusted. I put the phone down just before Jack walked back into the room, towel around his waist, humming some tune. I tried to meet his eyes. I failed. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine," I lied. I didn't sleep that night. I watched him instead, his chest rising and falling, the stubble on his jaw, the peacefulness in his face. How could someone look so innocent while carrying so much guilt? By morning, I had a plan. But the plan wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was understanding. I needed to know how long. Why? What made her better than me? What made her different than me? I wasn't ready to burn bridges until I had the full blueprint of betrayal in my hands. So I called Claire. "Hey," I said, surprised at how normal I sounded. "Want to grab lunch?" There was a pause, a second too long. "Sure." "I've missed you," she replied with that bright, fake cheerfulness I'd heard her use on strangers. We met at a little cafe downtown, one we'd chosen together years ago. The waitress even remembered our usual orders. Claire looked the same. Perfect hair, perfect eyeliner. The same necklace in the photo hung around her neck like a noose she didn't even know was tightening. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled. We talked about meaningless things. Her work, my promotion, the new place she was renting. I watched her lips move, her hands gesture. I listened for a tremble, a crack, a slip, but Claire was a polished liar. So I gave her a push. "Jack's been distant," I said, stirring my coffee slowly. "Do you think he could be cheating?" Her spoon froze in her bowl of soup. Just for a moment. "Oh, no," she said too quickly. "Jack loves you. You two are so solid. Don't let your mind go there." And that's when I knew for sure. I left lunch with my mind spinning. My hands shook as I started the car. The betrayal wasn't a dream, a misunderstanding, a wrong number. It was real, and it wore the face of someone who once braided my hair and held my secrets. The days that followed were like wading through wet cement. Every conversation with Jack felt like theater, every smile from Claire like poison. I mastered the art of silence, the way a bomb lies quiet before it detonates. Jack didn't notice. Or, if he did, he didn't care. That stung more than I expected. I began to notice the little things. How often he checked his phone and smiled, the vague answers to my questions, the subtle detachment in his hugs. Claire messaged me the next day. Just a casual meme. A stupid cat in a box. Something we would have laughed about a week ago. I stare at the screen, the ridiculous caption staring back at me. "This is you when someone takes your fries." Was she trying to pretend everything was fine? Or was it her way of saying, "I know you know"? The layers of meaning started to crush me. I replied with a laughing emoji. Two, even. Keep the mask on. The next few days blurred into each other like a slow, aching fever. I tried to act normal. I went to work, smiled at my coworkers, cooked dinner, folded laundry. But inside, I was unraveling. I couldn't stop thinking about them, about when it had started, about all the moments when Claire had been just a little too supportive, a little too close to Jack, the jokes they shared across the table, the lingering glances I'd chalked up to familiarity. Thursday night, Jack had another networking dinner. I watched him get ready. The careful grooming, the crisp shirt, the fresh shave. He always paid more attention to his appearance for these nights than he ever did for our dates. Big client. I asked, my tone light. Yeah, he said, not meeting my eyes. Could be huge for us. Us. How generous. After he left, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch with the lights off. The silence wrapped around me like a blanket of thorns. I scrolled through our old photos. Jack and me at the beach, Claire and me laughing in front of a Christmas tree. I studied them like crime scene evidence. Where had the fractures begun? When did everything start to rot beneath the surface? I called Mia my sister. She was the only one who ever saw through my smiles. You okay? She asked immediately. I'm fine. You're lying. I paused. My throat tightened. Jack's cheating on me. With Claire. There was silence. Then that bitch. I laughed, a sound more broken than amused. You always said you didn't like her. Yeah, well, I didn't think she was that kind of snake. Mia wanted blood. She suggested confrontation, exposure, drama. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I started watching. Tracking. I downloaded an app that let me trace his location. I told myself it was just to confirm, to make it real. As if it wasn't already. Friday night. He said he was at a client's house in West Ridge. His phone showed downtown. Near Claire's loft. I drove there. The city looked different that night. More raw, more honest, like it had removed its makeup. When I reached Claire Street, I parked a block away. Her lights were on. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. Then I saw him. Jack. Shirt half untucked. His smile lazy. Claire behind him, laughing. I took a photo. One click. A digital monument to betrayal. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I needed them to feel safe. To believe the lie they built was holding. I needed to understand the depth of it. How much of my life had been a performance in someone else's fantasy. The next day, Jack brought me coffee in bed. He kissed my forehead and told me I looked beautiful. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and thanked him. I started keeping a journal. I wrote down every lie he told, every detail Claire shared that didn't add up. I became my own investigator, my own spy. It gave me purpose, a role to play in this twisted drama I never auditioned for. Claire called a few days later. She wanted to grab drinks, just the two of us. I agreed. I wanted to look her in the eyes and see what kind of monster wore my best friend's face. We met at the rooftop bar downtown. Claire looked stunning, as always. Her hair perfectly styled, her lips painted a shade of red I once admired. I wore something simple. Something that said, I'm still standing. We talked about meaningless things. Work, the weather, the city's new parking regulations. I studied her face, her hands, her expressions. I waited for the cracks to show. They didn't. So I tested her. I think Jack's cheating, I said, sipping my wine. Something feels off. Claire blinked. Just once. No way. Jack loves you. Do you think it could be someone we know? Claire laughed, forced too loud. You're watching too many crime shows. I smiled. Let her believe she dodged a bullet. But that night, I wrote it all down. Her reaction, her lies, her fear. I was building my case. Back at home, Jack was waiting for me with takeout and wine. Rough day, he asked. I kissed his cheek. You have no idea. Because the longer the lie lasted, the sweeter the truth would taste when it shattered. By the time Monday came around, I had memorized their schedule better than my own. Jack always left at 8:15 a.m., claiming early meetings with suppliers. Claire had yoga on Mondays, 9 a.m. sharp. I knew where. I knew with whom. But the question that haunted me was why. Why her? Why not just leave me? Some betrayals are sharp like knives. Others are slow, like poison. This one was both. I felt the sting every time Jack touched my back. I felt the sickness grow with every sweet word Claire messaged me, pretending. I took the day off work, told him I wasn't feeling well, and that wasn't even a lie. My stomach was in knots, my head spinning. I couldn't focus on emails or meetings, only on what to do next. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I wanted understanding. Proof. A full picture. So I followed her. Claire didn't notice me. I stayed far enough back, blending in with the morning traffic. She walked into her yoga studio, all grace and smiles. Inside, I sat in a nearby cafe, sipping tea I couldn't taste, eyes glued to the door. An hour later, she emerged, glowing, energized. She checked her phone and smiled. I didn't need to guess who had messaged her. She typed a response quickly, tucked her phone away, and got into her car. I followed again. She didn't go home. She drove across the city to a familiar address, Jack's friend Matt's condo. At least that's what Jack had told me once. Now, as I watched Claire park and enter the building, I knew better. I waited 40 minutes. Then Jack arrived. The ache in my chest was almost physical. I should have been numb by now. But somehow, each new betrayal found a fresh patch of skin to pierce. I took pictures. I recorded timestamps. I watched shadows move behind curtain windows. And then I left. Not because I was done, but because I was just beginning. Back home, I opened the folder on my laptop where I'd started collecting everything. Messages, screenshots, GPS logs. I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with it, but I knew I needed it. For sanity, for justice, for closure. That evening, Jack was unusually affectionate. He brought flowers, cooked dinner, lit candles, played music, said, "You seem stressed lately. I thought we could relax." I smiled through the entire meal, said thank you, kissed him back. And all the while, I imagined how he would look when he saw what I had gathered, when he realized the game was over. After dinner, I excused myself to the bedroom and cried. Not because I was hurt. I'd passed that threshold. I cried because of how exhausting it was to keep pretending. How much strength it took to be silent. Claire, too, was still playing her part. She posted an old photo of us on social media the next morning. Brunch with my ride, or die 2 hearts #best friends. The comments poured in. You two are goals. Such queens. Friendship like this is rare. I stared at the screen and felt something in me shift. Not break. Shift. A new clarity formed. Maybe I didn't want to just expose them. Maybe I wanted them to expose themselves. The next step had to be subtle. Strategic. I needed cracks to widen for one of them to start slipping. So I wrote Claire, "Hey, I've been feeling a little weird lately. Like something's off. I don't want to be paranoid, but you'd tell me, right? If Jack was doing something." It was bait. She replied almost instantly. "What? OMG, of course I'd tell you. Don't even think like that. You two are perfect together. Too fast. Too polished." So I wrote back, "Thanks. I just needed to hear it from someone I trust. Love you." Let her stew in that. Let her think she still had me fooled. That night, I printed the photos. Each one crisp, time-stamped. I tucked them into an envelope and slid it into my desk drawer. I wasn't ready to use them. Not yet, but the day would come. Because the truth has weight, and eventually, it crushes the lie. The next morning began like any other, with the alarm clock's soft chime and the smell of Jack's aftershave still lingering in the air. He was already gone by the time I emerged from the bedroom, but he'd left a note on the counter. "Lunch later? Miss you already." I stared at the handwriting I knew so well, as though it belonged to a stranger. My hands didn't shake as I tore the note in half and dropped it in the trash. The lies were everywhere now. Tiny seeds growing in every corner of our life. I could feel the ground under my feet shifting. And for the first time, I didn't feel afraid of the collapse. I wanted it. I wanted to feel the quake. The day passed slowly, like molasses dripping down cold glass. I walked through the motions. Laundry, dishes, a few emails. I looked normal. I sounded normal. I even smiled when I passed neighbors in the hallway. But inside, I was calculating, watching. That afternoon, I went to Claire's place. I didn't tell her I was coming. I knocked. And when she opened the door, her expression flashed confusion before settling into her default charm. "Hey," she said, pulling me into a quick hug. What a surprise. "I needed a friend," I said, my voice small. It wasn't even acting. I didn't need a friend. Just not her. We sat in her living room. The scent of vanilla candles filled the space, and soft music played in the background. A calm, curated lie. She poured wine. We talked. I asked questions, and she answered them all. The practiced lies of someone who believed they were smarter than me. But I noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted to her phone when it buzzed. Eventually, I excused myself to the bathroom. On the way, I passed her bedroom. The door was ajar, and there on the nightstand sat a framed photo. Jack, smiling, shirtless, taken on our last vacation. The frame was new, sleek, silver. I stood in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror, my heart hammering in my chest. I thought about smashing the photo, screaming, dragging Claire out into the hallway, and yelling the truth for the whole building to hear. Instead, I fixed my lipstick, smiled, and went back out. "I have to run," I said. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just remembered I left something on the stove." She laughed. "You're always so distracted lately." I smiled and left. At home, I sat on the kitchen floor and let the silence stretch around me. Then I pulled out the envelope again. The photos, the logs. I added a note. "You forgot to hide your trophies." Then I made copies. One for Jack's office, one for Claire's mailbox, one for me. But I didn't send them. Not yet. Instead, I started a new plan. I called Mia. "I need you to come to town," I said. "It's time." Time for what? For them to see the version of me they forgot existed. The version of me before Claire's smiles and Jack's false promises. Mia arrived on a Saturday. The version of me that didn't need. She drove 6 hours straight from her apartment in the city, her music blasting, her eyes sharp with the kind of fury only a sister could bring. She didn't even knock. She marched into the apartment like it was a crime scene, which, in a way, it was. "You look thin," she said, dropping her bag. "You've been living off caffeine and vengeance, haven't you?" I tried to laugh. It came out hollow. She pulled me into a hug, her familiar scent grounding me. "It's time to break things, isn't it?" she whispered. I nodded, but carefully. We spent the rest of the day going over everything I collected, the messages, the photos, the time logs, even voice memos I'd started recording during awkward phone calls with Claire. Mia was meticulous, sharper than I'd remembered. She had once dismantled her cheating ex's entire social media life in under an hour. This was her arena. Jack's weakness is guilt, she said, flipping through photos. Claire's is vanity. We can use both. We started planning. Not just a confrontation, a performance. We wouldn't scream. We'd smile. We'd make them believe they were still in control until they weren't. Monday morning, Mia helped me dress. We chose a crimson blouse, the one Jack always said made me look powerful. I paired it with heels I hadn't worn in months. I didn't feel like myself. I felt like the version of me I wanted them to remember. I called Claire first. "Hey, are you free tonight? I'd love to host a little dinner. Just us and Jack." There was a pause. "Really? That sounds great. Yeah, I'm free." Jack was even easier. He loved a well-cooked dinner, and he still thought I was none the wiser. That's how good I'd become at playing the role. "Mia!" And I spent the afternoon transforming the apartment. Candles, music, my grandmother's china. We prepared 3 courses. Everything perfectly timed. A symphony of control. They arrived at 7:03. Jack kissed my cheek. Claire hugged me tight. For a moment, it felt like old times, if you ignore the storm brewing under the surface. We sat. We ate. We drank wine. I watched them laugh. I watched them pretend. And then, when dessert was served, lemon tart, Claire's favorite, I rose from my chair. I wanted to thank you both. I began for being here tonight, for being so important to me. Claire blushed. Jack smiled. And I have something for you. I reached behind me and placed 2 envelopes on the table. One marked J, one marked C. Claire looked confused. Jack tilted his head. Open them, I said gently. They did. The silence that followed was glorious, like the moment before the first drop of rain in a dry season. Jack's mouth opened, then closed. Claire went pale. She dropped her fork. I wanted you both to see what love looks like when it's betrayed. I wanted you to see yourself the way I see you now. Jack tried to speak. I raised my hand. No apologies. No explanations. I've heard them all in my head already. Claire stared at the photos, the timestamps, the printed messages. You followed me? I laughed softly. You made it easy. Mia emerged from the hallway, holding her phone. Smile, she said, snapping a photo. This one's a memory book. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just turned away, my heels echoing on the floor, leaving the 2 of them frozen in their own shame. That night, Mia and I drank wine on the balcony, the city lights glittering like tiny truths. I'm proud of you, she said. For what? For remembering who you are. The morning after the dinner arrived with a heavy silence. The apartment air tinged with the faint scent of melted candles and the cold remnants of lemon tart left on the table. The narrator, stood by the window, gazing at the city lights reflecting off puddles in the night's rain, the wooden floor cold beneath my bare feet. Mia slept on the couch, her breathing soft, a stark contrast to the tension the previous night, while the envelopes with photos and evidence lay scattered like shards of a broken mirror. I felt an odd relief, not triumph, but release, as if I'd shrugged off an unbearable weight. The confrontation with Jack and Claire had unfolded without screams, but their shocked faces haunted me, frozen in that moment of truth. The kitchen hummed with the coffee maker's quiet gurgle, the bitter aroma a small comfort as I poured a cup, my hand steady for the first time in weeks. Mia stirred, her eyes blinking open, and she sat up, her voice groggy but firm. You did it. I nodded, the damp air seeping through the window, a reminder the storm we'd weathered. We sat together, the couch's fabric rough against my skin, and reviewed the evidence, photos, timestamps, voice memos, a testament to my quiet rebellion. Mia grinned, her sisterly pride a warm glow, and suggested we plan the next move, but I wasn't sure what that was. Revenge had been served. Now came the aftermath. That afternoon, the rain returned, a gentle patter against the panes, and I cleaned the apartment, the clink of china as I washed dishes of rhythmic release. Jack's flowers from the night before wilted in a vase, their petals dropping like his lies, and I threw them out, the trash can's lid slamming shut with a satisfying thud. My phone buzzed Jack's number, but I let it ring, the silence after more powerful than any words. Mia helped, her hand scrubbing alongside mine, and we laughed about old times, her humor a lifeline. The workbench in the corner, once a symbol of my solitude, now felt like a partner in this new chapter, its tools gleaming with possibility. The next day, the rain eased, the city's wet streets glistening under a pale sun, and I ventured out, the air fresh with the scent of wet pavement. I walked to a park, the grass damp underfoot, and sat on a bench that would cool against my back. Memories flooded in, Jack's laughter, Claire's hugs, now tainted, but I let them pass, the breeze carrying them away. A text from Mia broke my reverie. Claire called me. She's a mess. I didn't reply, the dampness clinging to my coat, my mind wrestling with forgiveness or closure. Back home, the apartment glowed with warmth, Mia cooking dinner, the sizzle of vegetables a new rhythm, and I journaled, the pen scratch a release, writing of strength. The days after Mia's update about Claire step by step, restless energy toward a future undefined. The apartment air thick, with the lingering dampness of rain and the faint hum of city life beyond the window. I, the narrator, sat at the kitchen table, the wood warm under my hands, a cup of tea cooling as I stare at my phone, Claire's missed calls piling up like unopened letters. Mia bustled about, the clatter of pots as she prepared lunch a grounding force, her presence a shield against the echoes of betrayal that reverberated in my mind. Jack's silence was deafening, but Claire's desperation hinted at a crack I could exploit or heal if I chose. The workbench gleamed in the corner, its tools a silent promise of resilience, and I felt the pull confront the past head-on. That afternoon, the rain paused, the sun breaking through to cast soft light on the wet streets, and I decided to meet Claire. The cafe where we'd once laughed together smelled of fresh coffee and pastries. The air warm against the cool breeze as she arrived, her eyes red-rimmed, her perfect facade crumbling. "I'm so sorry," she blurted, her hands trembling around her cup, and I listened, the wooden chair creaking under me. She confessed, months of guilt, Jack's persistence, her fear of losing me, her word a flood I hadn't expected. I nodded, the damp air a witness, my heart a battlefield between anger and pity, the workbench's strength of memory as I weighed her sincerity. The next day, I called Jack, the phone's on a tense pulse, his voice shaky. "Can we talk?" We met at a park, the grass damp underfoot, the scent of budding flowers a contrast to the heaviness between us. He apologized, his eyes avoiding mine, admitting the affair but claiming love for me, a lie saw through. The bench was cold, the sun weak, and I set boundaries. No contact, a legal separation, my voice firm, the workbench's lessons of control guiding me. Back home, Mia hugged me, the apartment's warmth a sanctuary, and we cooked, the sizzle of chicken a new bond, my journal filling with resolve, the echoes fading, step by step, toward clarity. The week after setting boundaries with Jack unfurled with tentative peace. The apartment air light and fragrant with the delicate scent of spring blossoms drifting through the open window, mingling with the faint brine of the city beyond. I, the narrator, stood in the living room, the wooden floor warm beneath my bare feet, the morning sun casting golden patches across the space as I surveyed the changes. The workbench, once a lonely sentinel of my solitude, now stood organized and gleaming, its tools neatly aligned, a symbol of order emerging from the chaos we'd endured. Mia helped me repaint a wall, her brushstrokes a rhythmic dance against the faded paint, her laughter filling the room like a melody where Lily sketches once reigned, and I felt the jagged pieces of my life beginning to form a new mosaic. Claire's text had ceased, her silence a hollow victory, while Jack's absence left an echo I was learning to fill with my own strength, the spring breeze a gentle promise of renewal whispering through the curtains. That afternoon, the sun climbed higher, warming the apartment as I tackled the kitchen, the clink of dishes as I reorganized cabinets a satisfying cadence. Mia joined me, her hands deft with a duster, and we unearthed old photo albums, the glossy pages crinkling under our fingers. We laughed over childhood snapshots, me with pigtails, her with a gap-toothed grin, memories untainted by betrayal, the scent of dust and nostalgia balm. I paused at a picture of Jack and me, his arm around my shoulders, and felt a pang not of love, but of loss of the trust we'd shattered. The workbench caught my eye, its tools a reminder of the resilience I'd forged, and I set the album aside, the damp air from the window, a fading ghost of the rainy nights past. Mia suggested a thrift store run, her enthusiasm infectious, and we drove off, the cars on a new rhythm, the city's wet streets drying into patches of green. The next day, the apartment buzzed with life as we returned with treasures, a vintage lamp, a colorful rug, transforming the space into a haven of my own making. The lamp's warm glow softened the corners, the rug's texture soft underfoot, and I cooked dinner, the sizzle of garlic and onions a celebration of independence. Mia set the table, her chatter about her city life a bridge to a future unshackled from pain, and I journaled, the pen scratch a release, writing a reclaiming my space, the workbench a partner in this rebirth. The phone rang, Jack's number again, but I let it fade, the silence after more empowering than his pleas, the spring air a breath of freedom. We ate, the flavors rich on my tongue, and I felt the weight of the past, Claire's hugs, Jack's lies, dissolving into the warmth of the moment. That evening, the sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, visible through the window, and I sat on the couch, the fabric warm but comforting, Mia beside me with a glass of wine. We toasted to survival, the clink of glasses a soft chime, and she shared plans to visit more, her presence a cornerstone of my healing. I thought of the dinner confrontation, the envelope's impact, the shame on their faces, a victory hard won, and felt a shift not just from them, but within me. The workbench's tools gleam in the lamplight, a testament to my hands-on strength. And I wrote more, the journal filling with dreams, travel, art, a life defined by me. The city lights twinkled outside, the dampness gone, replaced by a dry, hopeful breeze, and I knew this rebuilding was mine to shape, step by step, toward a horizon of self-discovery. The next morning, the apartment glowed with sunlight, the new rug a splash of color, and I tackled a leaky faucet, the workbench's tools clinking with purpose, water dripping into a bucket, a minor challenge conquered. Mia filmed it, her laughter echoing, and we posted online, a small step into sharing my journey. Sarah, a co-worker, texted congratulations, her support a new friendship blooming, and I invited her over, the kitchen table set for 3. We cooked, the sizzle of pancakes a joyful noise, her story's resilience mirroring mine, and I felt a community forming. The journal lay open, my pen tracing plans, classes, hobbies, a life unburdened, and I looked at Mia, her grin wide, the workbench a symbol of my strength, the spring air promise of a future whole, step by step, toward a peace I'd earned. The morning after our pancake feast with Sarah dawned with gentle warmth. The apartment bathed in golden sunlight streaming through the open window, the air rich with the scent of blooming jasmine from a neighbor's garden, and the faint tang of last night's coffee lingering in the kitchen. I, the narrator, stood by the workbench, the tools cool under my fingertips, their orderly arrangement a testament to the order I was carving into my life. The new rug softened the wooden floor beneath my feet, its colors a vibrant contrast to the gray days of betrayal, and Mia hummed as she watered a small plant we bought, her presence a steady heartbeat in this newfound sanctuary. The journal lay open on the table, its pages filled with dreams and plans, and I felt a deep shift, less about escaping the past, more about rooting myself in the present. The spring breeze a soft encouragement to grow. That afternoon, the sun climbed higher, casting playful shadows across the room as I tackled a bookshelf project. The saw's gentle rasp a satisfying sound amid the quiet. Mia joined me, her hand steady with a hammer, and we laughed as the shelf wobbled, the scent of fresh wood shavings mingling with the jasmine. We talked about her city life, my promotion, the strength we'd found, and I confessed a lingering ache of Jack's lies, the workbench a silent witness to my vulnerability. She listened, her eyes kind, and suggested a weekend trip, a chance to breathe beyond these walls. The idea sparked a warmth, the damp air from earlier rains of fading memory, and I wrote in my journal, the pen scratched a release, noting my courage to step out, the tools a symbol of my hands-on healing. The next day, we drove to a coastal town, the cars hum a soothing rhythm, the salty breeze from the ocean, a sharp contrast to the city's embrace. The beach stretched before us, the sand cool underfoot, the waves crashing with steady roar as seagulls cried overhead. I walked alone for a while, the water lapping at my toes, and thought of Claire, her tears at the cafe, her polished lies, and felt a flicker of pity, not forgiveness, but a release from rage. Mia joined me, her laughter at a crab's sideways scuttle a bomb, and we collected shells, the smooth textures of tactile joy. Back at a seaside cafe, the aroma of fish and chips filled the air, and I journaled, the sea's rhythm-inspiring plans. Art classes, a garden, my roots deepening, step by step, toward a self I was rediscovering. That evening, the apartment welcomed us back, the new bookshelf a proud addition, its shelves lined with books and shelves, the lamp's glow softening the space. Sarah visited, her smile bright, bringing a sketch pad as a gift, and we cooked, the sizzle of stir-fry a communal dance. She shared stories of her own heartbreak, her resilience mirroring mine, and I felt a friendship blooming. The workbench's tools a quiet ally in this circle of support. The phone buzzed, Jack's number again, but I silenced it, the silence after victory, and Mia teased me about dating, her humor a spark. I wrote more, the journal a canvas of growth, the spring air a breath of possibility, and I considered forgiveness, not for them, but for me, releasing their hold, step by step, toward a peace I was claiming. The next morning, the sunlight danced on a new rug, the apartment a haven of my making, and I started an art class online. The Sketchpad's blank page challenge I embraced. Mia filmed it, her encouragement a cheer, and we posted it, the comments a wave of support. I thought of Jack's flowers, Claire's photo frame, the lies they built, memories now powerless, and felt a strength rise, the workbench a foundation, the jasmine sent a reminder of life's renewal. Sarah texted, planning another dinner, and I agreed, the kitchen table set for growth. The journal filled with sketches and plans, my pen tracing future, travel, art, love on my terms. And I looked at Mia, her grin wide, the seas echo in my mind, step by step, toward a resilience that defined me, a horizon of my own design. The morning after starting my art class broke with radiant warmth. The apartment bathed in the golden glow of a summer sun pouring through the open window, the air alive with the sweet scent of wildflowers from a nearby park and the faint hum of a neighbor's lawnmower. I, the narrator, stood by the workbench, the tools cool and familiar under my hands. Their polished surfaces reflected my growth as I admired a small wooden box I crafted, its edges smooth from hours of care. The new rug brightened the wooden floor, the sketch pad on the table filled with bold strokes from my first lesson, and Mia danced into the room, her laughter a melody as she waved a breakfast tray, pancakes and fruit, a celebration of our journey. The journal lay open, its pages a tapestry of resilience, and I felt a profound closure, the summer breeze a gentle affirmation of a life reclaimed, step by step, toward a light-eyed earned. That afternoon, the sun climbed higher, casting playful shadows as I tended to the small garden we'd started on the balcony, the soil rich under my fingers, the scent of mint and basil a grounding joy. Mia joined me, her hands deft with trowel, and we talked of her upcoming visit home, her stories of city adventures, weaving a future where I'd visit too. I thought of Jack, his last call unanswered, his absence a quiet gift, and Claire, her silent a surrender, and felt a weight lift, the workbench a silent partner in this piece. We sat with iced tea, the glass cool against my palm, and I journaled, the pen scratch a release, writing of letting go, the summer air breath of freedom as I considered a final meeting, not for reconciliation, but for closure. The next day, I arranged to see Jack, the park's green expanse a neutral ground, the grass warm underfoot, the air carrying the hum of children playing. He looked tired, his eyes avoiding mine, and apologized again, his words hollow but sincere in their regret. I listened, the bench steady beneath me, and spoke my piece, forgiveness for my sake, not as a boundary firm as the workbench's frame. The sun beat down, the scent of cut grass a contrast to our past, and I walked away, the journal in my bag a record of strength, the summer light a witness to my release. Back home, Mia hugged me, the apartment a haven, and we cooked, the sizzle of stir-fry a new bond, my heart lighter with each step. That evening, I met Claire at Quiet Cafe, the aroma of roasted coffee and pastries a nostalgic pull, the wooden chair creaking as she sat, her face marked by guilt. She cried, confessing her shame, her voice breaking as she begged understanding, and I listened, the damp air from an open door a reminder of rainy nights past. I didn't forgive her, not fully, but release her hold, my words calm. I'm moving on. The workbench's lessons of control guided me. The summer warmed a shield, and I left, the journal filling reflections, the city lights twinkling outside, a future unfolding. Mia waited with wine, the balcony a perch of triumph, and we toasted to me, the breeze a promise of joy. The next morning, the apartment glowed with sunlight, the garden thriving, and I finished a wooden box, its lid carved with flower, a gift from Mia. She cried, her hug fierce, and we planned a trip, coastal drives, art fairs, my sketchpad companion. Sarah joined us, her laughter blending with ours, and we cooked, the sizzle of seafood a celebration, the kitchen table a hub of new memories. The journal chronicled my victory, Jack's retreat, Claire's plea, my rise, and I looked at Mia, her grin wide, the workbench a foundation, the summer air a hymn of hope. The phone stayed silent, the past a shadow conquered, and I stepped on the balcony, the city sprawling below, step by step, toward a light where I thrived, whole and free at last.